Good morning and welcome. This is Pastor Lucy Painter with your daily insight. And this week we have been covering the prayer closet and what can hinder a breakthrough in the prayer closet. We have talked about the unconfessed sin and what causes unconfessed sin, the condition of the unconfessed sin. And we also talked about the consequences of the unconfessed sin. And so today, as we come to the conclusion, I want us to talk about how do we deal with it. Now that we know there is a problem, we have talked about the root cause of the problem, but we need to deal with it. We cannot just leave it there. In the book of Psalms 90, the Bible says this: "You have placed our wickedness before you, our secret sin, which we tried to conceal, you have placed in the revealing light of your presence." So one thing we need to understand is that what we said, that the secret place where the sin is, it is in the heart, is not hidden. The Lord knows. He understands. You can try to cover it up. You can try to hide it, but He knows. We cannot conceal it. He understands. And so we have to accept it's a problem. And the benefits of being free exceeds the problems and the trials and the hardships of trying to cover it up. And so we come to the place of saying, I don't need to keep the unconfessed sin. I don't need to go through the consequences of having God not moved by my prayers and my prayers not being heard. I need to be free. And so David says in Psalms 139 and verse 23, "Search me thoroughly." And this is where we need to get to that place where we tell God, I surrender, I yield to you. Search me thoroughly, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts, and see if there is any wicked or hurtful way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So we get to that place because we say the heart is the most deceitful. So even as we have been talking about this unconfessed sin, there may be some people who are still justifying themselves. I may be justifying myself and saying, all right, I'm the one teaching about this. Maybe I don't have any unconfessed sin. But you know, the Bible says if we say we have not sinned, then the truth is not in us. So we need to get to the place where we allow the Lord to search us thoroughly and let the Lord know our heart. We need to allow the Lord to test us and know our anxious thought, and to see if there is any wicked or hurtful way in us, and to lead us in the way of everlasting. Because we don't want this unconfessed sin. We don't want anything hindering a breakthrough in the prayer closet. And I just want to go through another psalm that is very powerful, and this is Psalms chapter 32. Allow me to read it bit by bit. The Bible says, "Blessed or fortunate or prosperous or favored by God is he whose transgression is forgiven and whose sin is covered." You know, when you get to that place where you're like, I need to be free. You are blessed when you confess the sins and you're forgiven. You are prosperous when you don't have those unconfessed sin. And you're blessed when you're free. Blessed is the man to whom the Lord does not impute wickedness. You are blessed. And in whose spirit there is no deceit. You are blessed. And David says, when I kept silent about my sin, my body wasted away through my groaning all the day long. Let me tell you, my brother, my sister, the guilt, the condemnation, the efforts to try to cover it up and to justify yourself, it's gonna eat you up. It eats you up. It weighs you down. David says the body wasted away with all the groanings. For day and night your hand of displeasure was heavy upon me. my energy, vitality, and strength was draining away as with the burning heat of summer. Can you imagine such a condition? It's not a good place to be. And so David says, I acknowledged my sin to you. So when we are talking about dealing with this sin, what do you need to do? Acknowledge the sin to him, to God. Because it is to God that you sinned, not to anyone. It is to God. I acknowledged my sin to you. And I did not hide my weakness. I said, I will confess all my transgressions to the Lord. So after acknowledgement, then you take the next step. You confess all, not some, not a little, but all the transgression. And this is what happened. There is assurance, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. Therefore, let everyone who is godly pray to you for forgiveness. In a time when you are near and may be found, there is assurance. If the Lord forgave David, he can forgive you. He is forgiving even today. Surely when the great waters of trial and distressing times overflow, they will not reach the spirit in him. You are my hiding place. You, Lord, protect me from trouble. You surround me with songs and shouts of deliverance. You know what? One thing I understand about unconfessed sin, if the waters of trouble come and you find yourself in trouble, you find yourself in challenges, there is always that condemning voice that tells you, you know why you're in trouble? It's because you did that, you did that, you did that. Remember, even when Jesus found a blind man, the disciples were quick to ask who sinned. Is it the parents or is it him? Because when you have that unconfessed sin, there is always that condemnation. So David is saying, when you have you received forgiveness, even when the waters of trouble come, the Lord is your hiding place. So you remove any legal ground for the enemy. The enemy has no legal ground. So do not be like the horse or like the mule, which has no understanding, whose trappings include the bridle and rein to hold them back in check. Otherwise, they will not come near to you, because many are the sorrows of the wicked. But he who trusts in and relies on the Lord shall be surrounded with compassion and loving kindness. Be glad in the Lord and rejoice, you righteous, you who actively seek right standing with him. Shout for joy, all you upright in the heart. So let us seek the right standing with him. Let us seek to be righteous with him. How do we do that? Acknowledge the sin, confess the sin, and this is the promise that even when the waters of trouble come, you will find a hiding place in the Lord, because you are safe, you are secure. There is therefore no condemnation, because you have already confessed the sin. You have nothing to hide. Let the Lord search your heart and let us deal with all unconfessed sin. This is Pastor Lucy Painter with your daily insight, and this was Prayer Closet Day 5. Shalom. And as usual, today is Friday. It's that day I remind you to become a supporter. And I want to tell you today, there's another way that you can become a supporter. There is a website called Buy Me Coffee. You can just search for Buy Me Coffee, Pastor Lucy Painter. With $5, you can buy me coffee or buy me a book, whichever way you want to do it. And through that, you support the podcast on the 20. Now we are on 22 platforms. We have been listed on Pandora this week, and we thank God for that. And so the podcast has been listened all over the world in 22 platforms, and we thank God, because from Monday to Friday we bring you daily insight, 5 to 10 minutes of the daily insight, empowering word for the glory of God. Shalom. This is Pastor Lucy Painter. Until next week, be blessed.